It is a historic moment in this kitchen right now. I just taught Chef Jon-Paul something. This man knows almost everything, except for the fact that I told you that I just learned that when you hear bagpipes in Scotland, you have to hold. It's customary to hold a glass of scotch.
I also understand it in Scotland. It's also traditional that when you hear a phone ring, that you should have a glass of scotch. And yeah, so
or when you wake up.
It's one of many things in Scotland where you should be caught holding a glass of scotch.
Exactly. Well, okay, so we're back in the kitchen with Chef Jon-Paul, and this time he is sharing his new favorite, sauteed monkfish.
Monkfish. And monkfish is one of the ugliest fish you've ever seen. Sometimes it's called an anglerfish. And its body is 50% head. So you rarely see it as a whole fish. And it's got this, it's called an anglerfish because it's got this cool cord that hangs out the top of its head, and it looks like a fishing lure. And
okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm not even going to go there because I'm going to sound silly. But yes, I know what you're talking about.
But it hangs out on the ocean floor, and it just kind of waits and dangles this thing out there. And when prey goes by and nips at it, it opens its mouth, and its head is so huge it creates a suction and pulls the fish into it. And it's got nasty rows of teeth, and it's because it eats so much delicious fish. Its meat is fantastic.
Oh, gotcha.
So,
now, if it's like all head, is the meat kind of prized because there's not much body to get?
This used to be very cheap. Back in the 70s and 80s, they couldn't figure out what to do with this fish, but it has kind of the texture of lobster. So if you're not a fish person, this is a great way to start. But right now, it's getting a little more expensive. Okay. But as you see, all I did was I took a medallion here and just took this guy and just seasoned it with salt and pepper and a little bit of flour, and it's cooking up almost like a scallop would. All right, so it doesn't look like a flaky fish. So it's a fun fish to play with, especially
unless you're the little fish that like swim in front of it.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah, unless you're that poor little guy there. All right, so this guy is just kind of cooking away. Now, I put it in just before we went on break, so it's been cooking about 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, real simple, real easy process. Over here, I have some European cucumbers, and what I did was I cut the core out, cut them into quarters, and then I turned this into what's called a tournée, or a turn. So if you've never had cooked cucumber before, it's amazing. It's one of my favorite vegetables for fish. Absolutely one of my favorites.
What's with the European, or did you say European cucumber? How is it different than like the traditional cucumbers that we get?
I can leave the skin on. Sometimes they're called, and they're really not European. We were talking about this before the show. I'm just going to start building this dish. I'm going to add some shallots.
Okay.
And cook that off a little bit. European cucumbers were originally called.
Or is that butter?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
All right. So but I use whole butter, not clarified butter. And when I can smell it, so you can kind of smell it.
Yep.
Now we're going to hit it with some wine.
I like how you say you're going to hit it with some wine.
Yeah, it's kind of macho.
It is very macho.
Yeah, when you're working with a Chablis, I like to be a little more macho. Yeah, thank you. No, but the cucumbers, these are the ones you see in the supermarket that are wrapped in plastic. And the reason they wrap them in plastic is because the skins are so delicate. So we can leave them on and eat them. If you had a regular cucumber and tried to do this, you'd be gnawing through that.
Okay, let me show everybody. This is what we're looking at right here.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful cucumber. I'm going to add some capers, those little jewels, those little pops. Now, a lot of people are afraid of capers.
I used to be, not anymore.
Right, we like them now.
I'm a big girl now with those.
It really kind of breaks up the flavor. And I love it because you're never bored when you have a caper. I'm going to add a little bit of lemon. So I have lemon, caper, white wine, tomato as my primary flavors. And then, all I have to do, add a pinch of salt.
Now, do you have the tomato dice that small because you want kind of it to balance with the size of the caper, or is it just because?
You're so perceptive, you're stealing my thunder. Absolutely correct. All right, so typically what I want to do is I want to dice everything, so I can't dice a caper. Right. All right, so everything would be sized to the caper. So anything I would put in here would be about caper size.
Okay.
So it does a couple things. I'm going to have more flavor. If I have big chunky pieces of tomato, that's going to be an issue because if I have a big chunk of tomato and a chunk of fish, the tomato's going to dominate everything.
Okay.
All right, but if everything's the same size, I'm going to get a lot of kind of that communal flavor going on in there. And then all I'm going to do is just swirl that butter until it melts.
Now, for the people that don't have the big, tall hat, can they just stir it?
They can stir it.
Okay.
All right, absolutely. Here, I have a little spoon. I have a Stephanie-sized spoon.
It does look a lot chefier.
All right. But it's actually, you'll find it's easier because now I don't have to figure out where I'm going to put the spoon.
Well, let's put that bad mamma jamma right in there with those pretty little things and show how it all comes together. Okay. A little bit of a, what is that, chopped parsley?
A little bit of a flourish at the end, yeah. Okay. So we're going to spoon this over the top. Bama Lama Bamaloo. I dig that child about to drive me wild with Bama Lama Bamaloo. Little Richard, the king of rock and roll. All right, and then just fan some of these guys around there. And as I said, experiment. Play with stuff in your fridge. If you don't like capers, that's cool. But try the cucumbers. If you don't have access to monkfish.
Rush you?
Please rush me. Rush away. You're going to need to cut it.
Oh, really?
It's that muscly. Yeah, just grab that little piece right there.
All right.
Yeah, it's dense.
Let's put a little bit of this deliciousness on there. Fingers crossed.
Clean?
So good.
All right, has a nice chew to it.
There's a little bit, it's not flaky, but it's not scallopy. It's like right fishy. In between there, and it's absolutely not fishy.
One of my favorite fish. Play with it. But if you can't find the monkfish, substitute another fish. Try salmon.
No, try the monk. Never tried that before. Thank you for letting me expand my palate. All right, the recipes are going to be available on SonoranLiving.com. We'll have the shrimp, and we'll also have the sauteed monk, and you just let us know how they turned out in your home.